The big idea here, an established power, a rising power, and you've looked at all these cases. You go back some 5 or more centuries.
500 years, yep.
Yep. And what does the record show?
So I did over the past 5 years this search for the last 500 years. I found 16 cases. In 12 of the cases, the outcome was war.
Okay.
In 4 of the cases, the outcome was not war.
Is this the end for King Dollar? Where does this leave the United States as the preeminent global superpower of the last century? The Wall Street Journal instilling confidence. King Dollar is abdicating, and that's okay. I owe nothing. My money can also be used as toilet paper, and I've never been happier. That's okay. You will eat the bugs. You will drink the bugs. You will live in the pod. You will own nothing. You will be happy. The United States has the best military in world history. Of course, we are now in a century whereby economic might is regarded as the key factor in terms of superpower ranking. As we have discussed, the petrodollar system has defined geopolitics since 1971 when Nixon took the US off the gold standard completely. The key aspect of this mechanism is the fact that the US petrodollar has been mercilessly backed by the might of the US military, and this military might hasn't gone anywhere.
The truth is, again, you know, our military is so incomparably better than all the others. And we spend more on defense in our country. So to keep everything in perspective, then it depends again on your counting rules, but certainly more than all the other next 7 countries together, and arguably the next 9, depending again on how you count certain categories. And there's just no one in that class.
But what about China's military capabilities?
Over time, it will have a maritime expeditionary capability. It has very good already anti-area access denials, it's called. It's got some very good stuff in space. And as we all publicly know now from public accounts, their cyber theft capabilities are extraordinary, and they've stolen about $1 trillion worth of U.S. intellectual property.
Espionage, the world of spies, psyops, and honeypots. The CIA status is undisputed. They played a key role in many operations that have played a key role in maintaining American hegemony. The Western world, from an intelligence standpoint at least, has been defined for the last 50 years by the mutually beneficial relationship between the CIA, Mossad, and MI6. However, it must be emphasized that it is the NSA, particularly in the information age, that hold the trump cards.
And I think the thing you also should understand is that actually the NSA-GCHQ relationship, which is exceptionally close, is governed by an international treaty which dates from 1947, which is the UQSA agreement. So, I mean, the degree of cooperation is pretty extraordinary.
Mossad has more legal authorities than your intelligence services have. And so when we would talk to Mossad, we have to be very, the British legal authorities are kind of like ours, and the Aussies. The Mossad, I would make the judgment, you never ask, I would make the judgment they have more authorities under Israeli law than I had under American law.
And lastly, the Chinese.
The Chinese, yeah. The Chinese beat you on scale and mass. Okay, so I would say as a professional, I just stand back in awe at the breadth, depth, and persistence of the Chinese espionage effort against the United States of America. It's awesome. I don't know how they even file all the stuff they steal. But they are not nearly as sophisticated as the Russians. So your first question was about cyber. All right, Chinese are noisy, and they don't seem to mind. They just go in and take it. Russians far more sophisticated. Okay, but the Chinese beat you on scale. They beat you on mass.
Of course, the common theme here is the United States versus China. China are the challenger power to the incumbent power.
The best way to look beneath the surface to the substructural axis is this insight from Thucydides. We have today a rising power threatening to displace a ruling power, in which the dynamics are precisely the dynamics Thucydides describes between Athens and Sparta, and this is a pattern we've seen over and over. So I then call this Thucydides Trap.
I want to make a comment about this trap. I find difficult because I even don't know how to pronounce his name.
You know, the Thucydides Trap that people talk about.
Thucydides Trap.
The Thucydides Trap.
The Thucydides Trap.
The Thucydides Trap.
Thucydides Trap.
Thucydides Trap in China.
He's probably the only one here at this table who can hear the words Thucydides Trap and not have to go to Wikipedia.
Of course, Secretary Cohen has insulted every member of this committee by suggesting that we don't readily understand that.
We're going to have to manage that competition between us and China. There's another piece of wisdom from antiquity that says fear, honor, and interest always seem to be the root causes of why a nation chooses to go to hostilities.
Is all of this still applicable in the nuclear age? I mean, because one, if you note, there's not been a war since the nuclear age.
Right.
Although, as you note, also, we came very close.
So, again, trying to figure out where are the continuities in history and where may be the breakpoints. On this one, I side again with Thucydides. He says in the beginning of his Peloponnesian War that as long as human beings are human beings, the future will resemble the past, more or less. No, so there'll be some differences, but more or less.
Surprise, motherfucker!
While there are many differences in the current situation, none more important than nuclear arsenals, and not just nuclear weapons, but as David was referring to, superpower nuclear arsenals that create a condition of mutual assured destruction, which means whatever I do in my best efforts to disarm David, at the end of it, he can still kill me.
For the citizens of the West, an interesting dynamic is currently taking place. In the West, the trend has been the erosion of civil freedoms. Think about the Patriot Act and the surveillance era. In the East, well, it's essentially a social credit-based system. Essentially, the West controls covertly, the East controls overtly. Now, of course, we have a further eradication of individual freedoms as a result of the virus. From a game theory perspective, if China is implementing a social credit-based system, then is it inevitable that a similar system will be implemented in the West? And is this game winnable for the West?
Chinese beat you on scale, they beat you on mass.
I personally think the next phase of warfare will be predominantly economic warfare, cyber warfare, and of course bio-warfare.
I think we'll have a pandemic in the next 3 years.
Do you think so, really?
Yeah. I think that whether it is
How do you come up
naturally,
with 3 years?
I think that if you look at the population density and the technological capabilities and the cost of biotech. So I had, for example, a friend of mine, he runs a publicly traded biotech company. He said, I have 100 of the best scientists in the world. If we wanted to end the world, like, we could do it. Absolutely. It's like, give us 6 months.
Jesus
we could engineer a virus containing A, B, and C that would be communicable just like the common cold. We'd seed it in 3 or 4 metropolitan areas. End of story.
I actually think the United States is in a reasonable position long term. Of course, we have to distinguish between the country, in this case the United States, and the citizens of said country and the individual liberties and freedoms of the citizens. But I think as a power, the United States is in a reasonable position long term. Never underestimate the greatest military intelligence apparatus the world has ever seen. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you think September 11th was an inside